Okay, we are nearly at the end of looking at all of the extras in Bayonetta. There's just this part and the last part to go. Now obviously I've shown off the costumes before. However, what I haven't shown off is the Umbrenescences. Basically, to be able to show off the Umbrenescences, you need to be actually in the game, because your only access to them is via the item menu. Because basically what you've got to do is you equip them, or you set them, and then when you have a weapon on, your outfit changes. So if you have Shadra on and the Shadra essence, then you get this ever so slightly kinky outfit. Also, you're going to get to see the unique taunts that Bayonetta does with each weapon. Unfortunately, I haven't done the same for Jean. I probably should do. Well, should have done. At this point, it's a bit late to be able to re-record, but... But yes, basically, you are going to get more close-up views of these, but I just thought it'd be quite cool to show them off kind of in-game and how you do it. I believe I will also show off a little bit of concocting. Now, Jean's taunts are generally kind of quite brutal, really. I always feel a bit uncomfortable when Jean's doing her taunts, because she sounds so brutal. Because there's, "You motherfucker!" Then there's, "Such a disappointment." There's also, "Bitch please," and "You bastard!" And then also what I mentioned, I believe it was in the last part, "I will die before I allow the Umbra to vanish from this world." But those are pretty much all that she says. Whereas Bayonetta has a much greater variety. Well, I say she has a much greater variety. Not really, but still. Also, I worked my ass off, and I actually managed to get Saifeng, which you've got to beat 100 chapters on normal. So feel sorry for me. Basically, Saifeng are gunchakus, essentially, because they're nunchuck buttons. And it's named after Bruce Lee's childhood nickname.
I gotta give it to my tropical friends. They sure are fun to play around.
And the LP that you have, well, that you get for it, is, I believe, Valkenrit, which, well, no, actually, it's not that. That thing is lying to me. But I think it's I can't remember the song's proper name, but it's Hallelujah, 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 do do do. Yeah, that one. And also there is a unique costume for this one as well, with an Umbra Elegance. Now, the stylized Chinese characters that kind of come out of the gunner from Bagua, which are the 8 fundamental principles of reality. I'm probably going to pronounce these terribly wrong, but Kian, which is Heaven Sky, Dwi, which is lake, Li, fire, Zen, thunder, Zun, wind, Khan, water, Gen, mountain, and Kun, ground. Probably did them really badly, but oh well. Also, when using the Siphon, Bayonetta makes the Bruce Lee noises with the so on and so forth. That was really terrible. Also, right here I'm going to give you a decent look at the Apprentice of Blood. There's 101 Apprentice of Blood in the game, 50 of which you get from achievements. And over the course of this walkthrough, I managed to get quite a few of them that I didn't have before, so all that's left is, what is it? Touching it will really hurt, and then all the ones which are beat X chapter, beat the game on hard mode and non-stop infinite climax difficulty. Now, at this point I didn't have Siphon, so I've kind of just inserted that bit before now. But the music for Rodan and, well, or Pillow Talk and the Bazillions, I'm not even... Yeah, it's Pillow Talk and the Bazillions is, but are all from, Gustav Holst's The Planets. So you should look them up if you want to. Also, now we're going to have a look at all of the angels things in the hierarchy of Laguna. Now, unlike kind of all the other things that I have, where I've gone through and read, I'm not going to do that here, if only because otherwise I will literally be reading for the next 20 minutes. And I love you all lots, but I think I might go a bit nuts, and you can all read it yourselves, and pause, and so on and so forth. But obviously here you do have them all listed alphabetically, which is what Kamiya-san did want to have in the appearances, but obviously that was slightly marred by certain enemies not turning up at certain times. Oh well. Also, something that kind of always seems to catch me by surprise a little bit is that all of the angels' names, so you've got A to K, and there's none of the angels' names have a letter beginning with anything past K. And the last angel that comes up on the thing that you fight, that you meet, is the kinship. Which I just found really odd. You don't notice it in the game, because obviously they are the enemies that you need to murder. But even then, it's just slightly odd. Now I will say that I really do love the fact that they included this in the game, because it's always really nice to kind of have background information on the enemies you're facing, and also kind of the things that you're using, because I mean there's the Book of Infernal Demons as well as the Hierarchy of Laguna here, which I'll be doing the Book of Infernal Demons as well. Then you also have all the information on the items, and well, the accessories and the weapons all have their little pieces of information, and it's just that attention to detail that I just love so much. Like, not many other games put this much detail into stuff that you're probably never ever going to read. And it's because most people don't read it, or don't look at it, that I want to show it off, because kind of, I think in general, from the stuff that I've seen of people who've done Bayonetta, most of this stuff is kind of very maligned and just ignored. which is really sad because they clearly put effort into all of this, and I believe that you should see it. Now, obviously, the golem isn't an angel, but it appears in the hierarchy of Laguna anyway. You can kind of tell that by its slightly different halo thingy on its title bit. Took me ages to get that out of the way. Another thing which is quite cool is that you can just see bits falling off the bottom of the book, which letters. I'm assuming it'll be angelic script right now, but it could very well be demonic script because it's still Bayonetta looking at it. Also, there's gracious and glorious, evil gets. And they are the only angels that don't have an intro screen. Which, I think it's because they forgot to put it in. But you could just, I think Kumiya-san did say that they completely forgot about them. But it's a nice little, say nice little surprise. If you struggle with them, they're not very nice little surprise, but keeps you on your toes, and that's the main thing that that Bayonetta is excellent for, keeping you on your toes. Because even on the easier difficulties, there's still a bit of challenge. Because I'm able to beat the game on normal with platinum ranking, clearly easy and very easy are just that, they're easy and very easy. But even then, I can't get through them without getting hit at some point. I'm not that good at the game. And also when I eventually do go through beating it on hard mode and non-stop infinite climax mode, I will be out of my comfort zone, because it's a very stressful game, and it's throwing so much at you. Stressful's not the right word, but it's very intense. Because non-stop infinite climax mode, what do you expect? But other than that, it's basically because you need to keep focused at all times. If you falter, then it doesn't go very well. And I think people who have struggled with Bayonetta, but particularly with the camera, you can change the sensitivity on it, which does make it a lot easier to control, because I remembered when I did the first chapter of the game, which was it's controlled a bit stiffer than I remember, and just by upping the sensitivity, it was just oh yeah, it was exactly the speed I wanted it to be. But until then, it wasn't quite what I wanted. Now, the little thing that's at the end of these bits with Jean, which are basically just descriptions of the story, really. It says Avellaneda, which is actually a port city in Buenos Aires, in Argentina. Not 100% sure. It's also the surname of a pseudonym for the man who wrote the sequel to, a sequel to Cervantes' Don Quixote. The pseudonym is Alonso Fernandez de Avellaneda. So, yes. Just, I don't quite know why they included that. It doesn't really seem to have any link to anything that's useful. I mean, it'd probably be easier if I kind of had the etymology. Because etymologies are always fun to look at. And I mean that I do quite like looking at etymologies for stuff. Because it's interesting to find out details about kind of where words get their meaning. And also it's nice to see what words meant in the past. So like, nice, which obviously means kind and so on and so forth now, used to mean that, because it used to be spelt with a Y instead of an I, and it meant foolish. Which is just quite funny, really. Also, there's Eostisha, the tentacle monster. Now, something interesting to point out is the fact that kind of it says Eostisha could easily pass for a demon. It's therefore quite interesting that they used the voice actress for Cereza for Eostisha's voice. Because obviously Cereza is Bayonetta and Bayonetta summons demons, therefore, by connection, Eostisha is the closest to a demon. Because it's got that link. Also, there's Sapientia running on Sega hardware. Typical. Now, what's weird is that generally when kind of the cardinal virtues are brought up, you don't really hear the use of sapience. It's generally prudence. And there are 4 of them. I mean, if you are, there are kind of some 7 virtues, but the 4 cardinal virtues, which I think were part of the writings of St. Thomas Aquinas, were prudence, justice, temperance, and fortitude. And generally when they are brought up in places, it is prudence, justice, temperance, and fortitude that they are discussed as. I mean, in a long poem that I have studied from medieval England called Piers Plowman, which is written by the guy who we have dubbed Will Langland, because there's something he says in the poem. And because he personifies everything, literally everything, there's this bit in one of the chapters which is called a passus, which is a step, where they're planting the seeds of the cardinal virtues, that are filled with so it's like spiritus, iustis, spiritus fortitudo, spiritus prudentiae. Well, can't remember, but I think it might just be prudence, and spiritus temperantia. So they are done in those terms, and I think it is mostly prudence and not sapientia or sapience. And now we're on to the Infernal Demons, who I have already discussed at a reasonable length. I do really like having all the Infernal Demons in the game. They're just awesome. Although I think my favourite is Queen Sheba, if only because just that punching God into the sun is just wonderful. And a funny little story I should probably bring up about Jubileus, which has only just been revealed, is that when she was kind of designed, well, still is kind of seen as kind of very young goddess, like 16, 17, but she's only just been kind of resurrected, and they kind of see her as sending out like text messages with the load of emoticons, specifically her own divine emoticons, and abbreviations and everything. And I just find it hilarious that that's the way they think of her. Because you wouldn't think that that is how they would think of her, but they do, which is just great. Anyway, it's time to look up. Well, we'll have one more Infernal Demon page to look up as soon as we've read Queen Sheba's. But after that, that's all of the reading done. So let me just look at that. That's just awesome. Also, I mean the size difference, because you can see, I think that's Jubileus there. It's just ridiculous. But yes, here you have the one for Madama Styx. Reason the music's different is because this was done in a different place in the game. Either way. Now, this is basically just going through all of the achievements that you need to unlock if you want them. I can't quite remember what happens when you get all... Well, I don't quite know what happens when you get all of the Apprentice of Blood. But it's just something fun to try. Okay, so the reward is the Climax Bracelet, well, the Climax Brace. Although you are going to want it for Rodan, so just do the Halo farming and cheating, because getting all of the Umbran Tears of Blood is quite difficult. Either way, this is the concocting compound. Very, very simple. And you've got all the different varieties of items that you can get. Each having their own various uses, but if you do use an item in a chapter, then it does count against your overall rating. And the more items you use, the more likely you are going to be to dropping a ranking. And now, final bit of any gameplay that you're going to see is me tackling the hard version of the prologue. Because I wanted to show you kind of some extent of the differences between normal and hard. It's probably a very, very good idea if I do not have Gaze of Despair equipped, because these things are evil. So generally, in certain instances, what happens is that you get the enemies that appear in the cutscenes, and then harder enemies turn up. In other cases, you just face harder enemies immediately, so I believe in Chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, see you facing off against joys instead of affinities. So that's the jump in difficulty in terms of the enemies. So it's basically you're fighting harder enemies from earlier on, and also they are quite difficult. I mean, it could be a lot harder, and that's what non-stop infinite climax difficulty's for, because it removes witch time from your abilities, essentially. So it's definitely advisable that you get all the broken witch hearts and all the broken moon pearls in your run of the game on normal. Get used to how Bayonetta flows, and then try and take down hard mode. Particularly because then at that point you will have faced every single enemy the game can throw at you, so you're more prepared. Also, look, it's Grace and Glory already. The really, really annoying enemies in the game already appearing. It's just like, good grief. I'm not 100% sure kind of the enemies that turn up in the non-stop infinite climax version of this, but you can see how it changes quite dramatically. Although the game is still really fun, even on the harder difficulties. Even though it's a massive challenge, the game still flows wonderfully. And that just kind of makes it a joy to play no matter how difficult it is. Obviously, still can't quite forgive the really evil quick time events, but you can glaze over them for the most part. Unless you're going for a straight pure platinum run of the entire game with every character on every difficulty. In which case they're probably really, really, really annoying. And they're annoying anyway, but particularly so in that situation. And now let's just go on to the second verse of the the second verse of the prologue, and as you will see, you don't have to fight affinities here, you have to pull off torture attacks on Grace and Glories. So it's just like, now, I believe that here you don't have to kill the enemies with the torture attacks to get it to work. I think I do test out that theory at kind of for the last torture attack, but I think normally, particularly in the Alpheims, you do need to do the kill them on the final torture attack. Or not. Either way, just kind of murder the Grace and Glories and you'll be fine. That's generally the tactic for everything. I'm very proud of that pure platinum, I have to say. Because I seem to recall playing, trying to play hard mode when I unlocked, well, when I did the walkthrough the last time, and I was just like, oh god, my hands, this is too intense. But I've definitely improved, because that was a lot smoother than I remember it being. So that's all the gameplay? Oh dear. All the gameplay that you'll be seeing of Bayonetta. There is just one part of the extras left to go, in which we are going to look at the World of Bayonetta, which is essentially the gallery portion, well, the gallery bit of the game, which is really wonderful to look at. So I hope you all join me in that final part. So, I shall see you then.